All right, our first show since the Missouri game, a recap of Hugh Freeze's weekly press conference and just a talk about the game against the Tigers. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Village Vice is brought to you by mybookie.ag. They sponsor every show. They're still giving you a 100% bonus. They will double your initial deposit.
Insane.
When you use that promo code next round, just like that at the bottom of the screen, next round, double that initial deposit, get your football season going. You haven't even kicked off your season yet if you haven't gone to mybookie.ag. So do that today and get in on the fun. Missouri, this is the same song, Zach. I mean, this continues to be, the result is not there. The opportunities are. This team is good enough to be in games right down to the wire. This team is good enough to lead top 20 ranked teams in the fourth quarter.
On the road.
But on the road, yeah. I guess they didn't lead Georgia, but they were close. And they led Oklahoma. And, I mean, they're leading these teams in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. This isn't some inherently, not talented roster. I don't think our assessment of the roster all offseason, I don't think it was wrong. I think this is a deeper issue, whether it's coaching, whether it's culture. I mean, it doesn't really matter what it is. Auburn can't close out anything. They just can't. And Hugh Freeze was pretty forefront with that at his press conference just earlier today, Brad, admitting that whether it's the coaches, whether it's the players, they're playing not to lose, which of course is an ironic statement because when folks play to not lose, what do they typically do? They
typically lose. Yeah. And you could see it play out in some of the play calling. I mean, Coach Nix and Coach Freeze, and he mentioned Ken Austin today having a hand in some of it. So, between those three guys, you go for the kill against Oklahoma and you're aggressive and you turn the ball over. So it's human nature. I think the thing you have to fight the hardest is human nature to the next time you get in that situation where you're up a couple scores and you're early in the fourth quarter, or late in the third or whenever, and let's go for the kill here. Let's get a 3-score lead. But last time we were in a spot like this, similarly, we turned the ball over.
Yeah.
So instead, let's give it to our best player, the guy who we believe is our best player, and the guy that should have gotten the ball on 4th and 1 just 2 weeks ago against, everything in that situation screams run the football.
Yeah.
And everything screamed to Missouri's defense, run the football.
Mm-hmm.
And they stop you and you go backwards 2 straight plays. And it just seems like right now, for whatever reason. And I don't want to make a value statement here. This is not me saying that they're doing a poor job, which is going to sound ironic, but let me just say it. It seems like they're like a half step behind with every decision that they're making.
Yeah,
these instances, not that they're a half step behind these other coaching staffs, in totality, but that in these instances, whatever button they've pushed, man, it's been the wrong button.
Yeah, the greatest coaches in any sport at every level, they're always proactive. They always can kind of say, hey, I'm going to give you a million different things to throw at you, and you may only use one of them, but we're going to prepare you for every situation possible.
Mm-hmm.
This staff doesn't feel like that to me. They seem very reactive to a lot of things. And so I think that explains, or could explain, why this team never really feels as prepared as the teams that we're playing against. I don't know. That on Monday, Freeze for the first time looked like he didn't have a whole lot of answers. I mean, he kind of said the same thing, and then he kind of paused and look off to the distance a little bit. It's like, I think he's shocked at how this season has gone. I'm sure he's extremely disappointed. I'm sure he's devastated. I'm sure he's crushed more than any Auburn fan is. He doesn't want his name tied to what his tenure has been at Auburn so far. But the fact of the matter is, this team doesn't look well coached, whether it's the scheme, whether it's execution, whether it's just kind of situational awareness. There's a few times every game where it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And that is, I don't care that they're freshmen, but a lot of the times it's not the freshmen doing the doing the stuff where you're scratching your head, what's going on. It falls on coaching, and it falls on the head coach.
Yeah, it's interesting because I I respect anybody who says, I have a process and it clearly has worked for me in the past. See, that's what's interesting about this discussion.
Okay.
Is he's not a first or second year head coach, period. He's not a first or second year head coach in the SEC or in Power 5 football. Like there's a track record with this playbook.
Yeah.
And that's literal and like metaphorical. But there's a track record of success. So it's got to be insanely difficult. And I don't know that it's necessarily warranted to think you've got to go completely, turn the big giant ship around in the opposite direction when you've got to prove, like when you are this close and you believe your way is ultimately going to produce the results. We've said it all year, and it was one thing when you're 1-1. It was one thing when you're 2-2 or 2-3. At 2-5, it just feels more uncomfortable to say.
Sure.
That team's right there. They just still it's the same conversation we've had 3 or 4 times in this space on this day on this show.
Yeah, sure.
And they're there. They just need it to happen the first time where they
just so tired of close, Brad.
Yeah.
I'm tired of close, and I'm sure everybody on the staff is tired of close.
Yeah.
We're just so far past the moral victory crap. Like,
well, no, nobody's saying moral victories though. That I haven't said it. Coaches haven't said it. Who said it?
I mean, I think just general fans and discussion. I mean,
okay.
As far as the whole "we're close" narrative, that's what that is.
Well, no, I don't know.
Any sort of justification where you say we're close.
Yeah.
Is alluding to like, oh, well, there's some sort of victory in this. There's some sort of satisfaction or progress towards the goal in that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But I don't think that's moral victory. I think that's progress. I think that's, I want to I want to bench 225 right now, but I can't. I thought I was closer to it than I really was, but it's going to take a lot longer to get there than I thought. But I put 5 more pounds or 10 more pounds on the bar this week. That is progress. It is not the goal. It's not a moral victory, but it is progress. And that's where I think, I've not heard, I'm not calling you out on it. I'm just saying I haven't heard or seen a lot of moral victory talk. I have seen one of the youngest teams in college football growing, getting better. Those young players are probably the most athletic guys you have on the team.
Yeah.
And you don't ignore that while also saying, yeah, the results so far suck. It's terrible to lose these games, even more so when you have a chance to win almost all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Auburn's been in all of them except for the Georgia game. It's just doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And even when you're up multiple scores, like the guys I was watching the game with, I'm like, we're not going to win this game. Like, it's just there's no faith in this squad, and I don't think they believe in themselves, or they'd figure out how to close out a game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's I think it's easier to say that, but the other team's got dudes too, and they're coached, and they're in a multi-million-dollar indoor facility too, and they have big NIL deals too, and it's all about those one-on-one matchups. And you're right, to this point, confidence comes from the irrevocable proof that you can do something because you've done it before. That's where confidence comes from. You can't have confidence that you're going to do something if you've never done it before.
Sure.
And these guys haven't found the way to win the game yet. Hasn't happened since Cal last year. So a lot of the guys that are on the field this year haven't experienced that yet. And until they do, it's going to be an uphill climb as opposed to a downhill sprint to when you get to that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope they get a chance to get to it this year for sure. Today's show brought to you by our friends at roback.com. They have a tremendous selection of the best kind of apparel you could look for. They've got incredible quarter zips. They've got polos. They've got our favorite hoodies on the market. They've got pants and shorts and hats. They've got it all over at roback.com with a bunch of different patterns. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. When you go to roback.com, we don't want you to pay full price. Use promo code VICE20. When you order, usually there's like a site-wide promo. You've got to remove the thing the code that's automatically added. and type in Vice 20. One, it'll help out the show, but two, it'll also give you a better deal. So once again, rowback.com, use promo code Vice20 for 20% off your order.
I'll tell you now, you got like 9 weeks or so, I think, until Christmas. All right. Give everybody Rowback for Christmas.
Just
up,
check it off the list. Don't be stressed about it in a month from now. Just do it now.
$300-$400 worth of Rowback stuff. Get that 20% discount by using Vice20. Save a load of money and make everybody happy this year.
That's right.
It's time to press. And what I'm going to say is going to sound counterintuitive. Okay. But I'm going to go back to my weightlifting analogy. Okay. And this, I'm kind of talking to myself a little bit on this too, because I'm not where I want to be in that department. But if you've got a goal in your workouts and you're not there yet, and you thought you'd be there by now and you're not, what's the answer? Is it to stop? Is it to pull back? Is it to quit working out? Nope. It's to press harder, to keep at what you're doing, and maybe even to apply a little more intensity and hunger to it.
Okay.
All right. So we talked in December when Nick Saban retired from Alabama about how Auburn really needed to capitalize. Okay. We're watching things play out right now in Tuscaloosa. Their coach is not a bad coach.
That's right.
He's like every other coach, though. He's like every other coach. When you hear him talk, when you see him, his mannerisms, his post-game press conferences, he's like every other coach. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what they've been used to at Alabama.
Sure.
And because of that, people are starting to jump. They're starting to abandon ship. And they're doing it in droves. For Auburn to take advantage of that, this is not the time to look at the 2-5 record and do the same thing. It's time to press in more passionately. It's time to press in and be even more involved in whichever way, you're not currently involved. Do that. And I've seen that in the fan base. I mean, how in the world, what other fan base is selling out Vanderbilt and ULM in November with a team that's 2-5? Auburn is.
Good point.
There's a lot of forward momentum that's still out there. You got a recruiting class that is really good. You got to hold on to them. How do you do that? Keep showing up. Keep making the NIL contributions, or make an NIL contribution for the first time if you never have. This is still the time to seize on what is happening elsewhere in our state. And, and either we all collectively make the decision to, all right, it's not going the way we want. What are we going to do? We're going to pull back, or we're going to press further. And it seems appropriate, given what happened in Knoxville over the weekend, that and the response to it, that we got our own response in our own hands. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah. I mean, it's either you believe in your process or you don't. And so far that process hasn't really worked, but you have been able to acquire talent. It's just the talent is young. So can that happen? Are you closer than it may seem when you look at the outcome, the results of the game so far? And you could be. Yeah. You could be. Like if Auburn cleans up a few things, all of a sudden, they've got 2 losses instead of 5. So I mean, it goes back to the whole, like, they're close, but until you do it, it doesn't matter.
And especially in this and this has always been the case, but your football program, and this is what separates Auburn from Alabama by name, is that their identity for so long was tied to one man. The identity of their football program was all about one man. He wanted it that way. They were fine with it. They won. It was worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's what they do. They tie it to one person. And I understand that your head coach is the face of your program, and he sets the vision, he casts the vision, and all of that. But it's not about one man. It's not about one coach or one player. It's the program as a whole. And it doesn't matter who leads it. It doesn't matter who is the face or the quarterback or the running back or the top tackler.
Sure.
But it's bigger than that. And so when you rally and when you support the program, even in a down year or a series of down years, what you're saying is, I'm behind the program and believe in the longevity of the program. So just a I felt like I wanted to say that on today's show. It seemed timely to send that message today.
That's great. Yeah. Hey, you can connect with a ton of Auburn fans and folks who watch Village Vice and all the other shows over at thebarnauburn.com. It's just $1 for your first month. You get recruiting scoop, team scoop, peek. You can kind of get a peek ahead of the game plan a lot of the week. So check that out, thebarnauburn.com. And I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy it a ton. It's really growing fast over there, and it's been a lot of fun. Thebarnauburn.com. As far as the rest of the season, Brad, and I know you've made the caveat a million times, but I'm going to ask you to go against it. But like, what should expectations be for this team the rest of the way?
I think the players do the same thing. The expectation should be, I don't know this will happen. I think the coaches have to guard against this because it would be human nature to do the opposite. But I think the expectation should be the players do exactly what we just talked about. Press harder, work harder. If what you're doing isn't working, then you got two choices. Pull back or work harder, press harder, be hungrier, be more intense, be more focused, lock in even more. And that should be the expectation. You're playing at Auburn. This is, you got 5 winnable games.
Right.
On the scale, we said last week you had 6 winnable games. Was Missouri a winnable game? Yep, 100%. 100%. Nothing has changed in that regard.
No, that's true. They are all winnable games. And in fact, Kentucky seems more winnable this weekend than it ever has up to this point.
I do think you have to do it. You have to anticipate again being in a situation that requires making a play late. You can't hope you're not, in other words. You have to anticipate being in a situation that requires a clutch play late because Kentucky is a top 5 defense in the SEC in rushing. So their rush defense is 5th. Their pass defense is 3rd. They did an awesome job against Ole Miss and Georgia, 2 good offenses.
Sure.
Good offenses. They kept them contained. Florida was able to run a little bit. Some things spiraled on them against Florida, kind of like they did for Missouri against Texas A&M. You can't count on that.
Yeah, that Kentucky-Florida rivalry has always been a little wonky whenever they play each other. So,
Florida dominated it for so long. And, Florida's got a little momentum now after a close loss to Tennessee and now this huge win over Kentucky. But anyway, you got to expect just a rugged 17-14, like points and first downs are at a premium. It's a good defensive line, maybe the best D-line that you've played other than Georgia this year.
Yeah.
So, like even more than Oklahoma, more than Cal, probably the best D-line other than Georgia.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
You got to make smart decisions on offense. You got to take what they give you offensively and expect a close game late. Want to make the play. Anticipate being hungry and aggressive to be the hammer and not the nail when you get into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see if they can do it. They're capable of doing it. Can they pull it off? We'll see. We'll see. Brad Law, I think that about does it for today's show.
Yes, it does. We appreciate everybody who has subscribed of late and who comments on our shows. I will read all of them, so check them out. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Yes, they do. Everyone has vices. Would you make sure Village Vice is one of yours?